Hello, this is the seminar of Radical Theology course at GCAS College Dublin. It is about the paper from philosophy to mysticism, epistemological shift from rational inquiry to non-rational in the Islamic world. In this paper, I have explored the emergence of philosophy and the main driver of that emergence, also the shifting, which I argued that because of lack of independent institutions, and lastly, the consequences of shifting on sciences and medicine. To start, we should begin with the translation movement in the past era. While translation started since Prophet Muhammad's era, as we can compare the Old Testament and the Quran, and there are a lot of similarities and same stories almost. The translation movement witnessed a tremendous progression during the reign of Caliph al-Ma'mun, the son of famous Caliph Harun al-Rashid, the founder of the House of Wisdom, Beit al-Hikmah, which is a very famous library in Baghdad. Al-Ma'mun well funded the translation from the East and the West to collect and translate, for example, Greek, Indian, Persian books. And one of the most important books were, of course, the Greek that enriched the philosophical life in the Islamic world. For example, Kindi, a notable Arab Muslim philosopher, considered the Greek works as a resource for which he was able to employ the new, different ideas and methods. By the way, the translation was not directed from the Greek to the Arabic, but there was a Syriac language, which is a Semitic language, belonged to the very early Christian communities in the north of Iraq. They were the bridge between the Islamic world and the Greek, and they took a nice positions in the administration of the caliphate during the Caliph al-Ma'mun. Philosophy in the Islamic world couldn't establish independent institutions that protect and secure the philosophical inquiry, such as the universities in the West. Furthermore, it was led and patronized by few educated guides and governors. And we can start with the very famous and influential rational movement, the Mu'tazila, one of the most important in the early history of Islam. Although the Holy Quran was the primary source of this movement to understand monotheism, fate, divine attributes, and other topics to rest in the Islam, Mu'tazilas tried to study such dogmas with human reason, and it was a clear contradiction to the mainstream. The fatal mistake was that the Mu'tazila enjoyed the golden period under the patronage of the Ma'mun, and they couldn't publish their inquiry. However, after the withdrawal of the patronage, their doctrine lost the ground in society and unfortunately gradually disappeared. Nevertheless, their approach of critical thinking still has an impact on modern Muslim thinkers. They are very still famous. Individual philosophers, not just the Mu'tazila. There are many individual philosophers also enjoy that patronage. And for example, Farabi was regarded as the greatest philosopher after Aristotle in the Islamic world had patronage by the Hamadani uh, family and the Prince Saifullah in the Aleppo, North Syria, right now. Uh, Epirus also had a patronage by the Muwahhideen uh, family dynasty. For example, the Abu Yaqub Yusuf, who requested works that Epirus produced. Almost all the works of Epirus are requested by that governor. Yeah. Another fatal mistake that Mu'tazila uh, used the security instrument to implement their inquiry on the elite, not the public, on the elite. One of that the creation of Quran. They said that if Quran was created by God, of course there are mistakes inside Quran, and Quran is not very holy, and we can criticize Quran. And for this reason, the philosophy started to have a notorious status in the Islamic world and as the enemy of the Holy Quran and other things. And even a lot of notable scholars avoided to be called as philosophers. One of them was Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali was a scholar and polyhistor that famous as the proof of Islam. The proof. Why? Because he claimed that there is no contradiction between the logic and the Islamic thought. According to him, the Islamic philosophers adopt philosophical themes that are essentially incompatible with the religion. He needed a selective theories that easily adapted in the Islamic world, which we can consider it the the beginning of the mysticism, intellectual mysticism. Also, mysticism was not just as non-rational, but it was a spiritual power because the bloody competition over the caliphate between two dynasties over the caliphate, uh, they call it the grandson of the prophet, which was the main cause that we have Shia and Sunni inside Islam. A lot of notable figures withdrew from the public scene and they started to produce works that call for prayers, poverty, uh, fasting, and asceticism, a lot of the spiritual works. Another cause, the mysticism was very smart. They they were not elite. They respected the people and the public. They implemented their duties deeply. They have orders. For example, if you want to join, you will be a student or as murid, loved or lover of or wanted, and you will have a teacher, and that teacher belong to the group inside a specific movement inside mysticism. Also, a lot of rulers in Islam supported them to give them a that religious and spiritual power. This shifting to mysticism from philosophy was highly negative on science and medical knowledge and the practice. They weakened rational explanation and rely on the divine explanation and miracle. For example, uh, on the sciences, uh, the whole Islamic world right now, about less than 2 billion Muslims in the world, they have a few Nobel Prize. Uh, the, there's a college inside Cambridge have more Nobel laureates than all the Islamic world. And also the medicine, the practice was very harsh, was very superstition. Where on the other hand, the Islamic in the Golden Age, the medicine so spectacular advance indeed. There is a lot of surgical tools, the description of the circulatory system and physiology, pathology, and a lot of achievements in the Golden Age Islam. Thank you very much.